Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to Community Development Block Grant Advisory Special Meeting for Monday, August 26th. Let's have a roll call, please.
Committee members: Armenian.
Present.
Ramirez is absent. Kazarian. Vice Chair Avedisian
Present.
and Chair Garibian.
Here.
The agenda for the August 26, 2019 meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on or before Friday, August 23rd, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2 is minutes. At A, approval of the minutes of the April 22nd, 2019 CDBG Advisory Committee special meeting.
Anyone?
I so move.
I wasn't present, so.
Second? Second? Second on the...
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. If you could turn on your mic. And so it was seconded by Kazarian.
Yes.
I'll take roll call. Committee members: Armenian.
Yes.
Ramirez is absent. Kazarian.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Chair Avedisian.
Yes.
Chair Garibian.
Yes.
Okay.
What's
Item
that?
3, oral communications. We don't have any cards. Item 4, business agenda. A, action items. At 1 is review and approve program planning schedule for the fiscal year 2020-21 annual action plan. At A is a motion to approve the program planning schedule for the fiscal year 2020-21 annual action plan.
Good afternoon, Chair Garibian and members of the CDBG committee. Although we just started our new fiscal year, we are already looking ahead to 2020 and for the program planning and funding for next year. Part of this process is creating a program planning schedule that you have in your packets. And that begins on July 1st and goes through July 30th of 2020. At our last CDBG advisory meeting, we had informed committee members that we were in the process of hiring a consultant to help us prepare 2 very important documents required for HUD programming. And that is the 5-year consolidated plan and the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. The city awarded the contract to Veronica Tam and Associates in May of 2019, and they've already begun working on this project for us. Part of this agreement includes the participation in multiple community meetings that are scheduled in the program planning schedule before you. The consultant is currently working on a resident survey and is data gathering to include residents, community members, nonprofits in the planning process. We're also hosting our 2nd annual CDBG open house that will be held at the Adult Recreation Center on Thursday, September 19th. This proved to be a very highly successful event. We have 5 newly funded nonprofits this year in the program. And on October 3rd, we'll have a neighborhood public hearing at Pacific Park Community Center, which will include our consultant, Veronica Tam and Associates, who will conduct a public consultation meeting and receive notes and feedback from the attendees. The CDBG Advisory Committee will be back in council chambers on October 14th for a meeting to approve the draft version of the needs assessment, program priorities, and proposed funding allocation plan for 2020. This meeting will be held on a Monday, just like today, at 2:30. So please mark your calendars, since we'll be selecting a chair and a vice chair at the next meeting. On November 5th, we're scheduled for the City Council Housing Authority agenda for the approval of the program priorities and funding allocation plan, and we'll be approving the issuance of the RFP for the coming year. Staff will also hold a technical assistance workshop on December 5th to explain the RFP process to prospective applicants. This meeting will also include our consultant, who will conduct her own focus group breakout session to get feedback from public agencies on the 5-year plan. We also have a deadline of December 27th for applicants to submit their RFP proposals to the staff. And in the week of February 10th, staff will prep the boxes and distribute the packets to the advisory committee members for your review. Please plan to save the date on your calendars for Friday, February 21st. That's an all-day meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee to interview applicants and develop funding recommendations for fiscal year 2020-2021. Now, this is the 2nd year we've been able to complete the interviews and deliberations in 1 full day. We have, however, tentatively booked Monday, February 24th, as well as a backup date, and we'll continue the interviews and deliberations if we need to.
You mean
This-
February 14 or?
This is for the February 24th. So we'll have a meeting on February 21st, which is a Friday, the all-day meeting when we interview nonprofits, yeah. And then we'll have a tentatively booked schedule for the 24th, but this date is only dependent on the number of proposals we receive and the time it'll take to interview applicants. And then on April 14th of 2020, we have our scheduled City Council Housing Authority meeting approving the committee's funding recommendations, but this is a draft approval of the annual action plan. We have the consolidated plan, and then, of course, the analysis of impediments. But we will also go back to City Council and the Housing Authority again on May 19th to approve the final annual action plan, consolidated plan, and analysis. We scheduled the meetings in this manner after much discussion with the consultant because this is due in part to the delayed passing of the federal budget in recent years and last year's government shutdown with the continuing resolutions. It just seems to delay the CDBG allocations, the allocation announcements, and it keeps pushing back the date. So we wanted to have that backup plan. So we are hopeful that we submit the final action plan and consolidated plan and analysis to HUD on May 26th of 2020, and we'll start our programs all over again on July 1st. And this concludes the program planning schedule. If the committee has any questions?
Question?
I just wanted to say I may have a challenge attending the October 14th meeting. I just wanted to put that on the record because I have business travel.
Any other questions?
Just a quick, the consultants, does the committee has any say or anything to do with the consultants, or are we meeting with them or understanding what their overall package is before going to the council or anything in that aspect?
The committee member Abedisian, the consultant is currently working on the document. It's basically their data gathering right now, but they will come to one of our meetings, and they are more than welcome to come to one of our meetings to tell us where they are in the process. So we can invite them to a CDBG advisory meeting, and I probably suggest the February meeting because that's when they'll really have most of their data finished. They will present at the workshops, so you may be able to see them there as well and introduce yourselves. It is a joint venture, and I failed to tell you, it is a joint venture with the Housing Division because half of the funding is coming from the Housing Division. It is also it's a requirement not just for CDBG, but it's a requirement for homeless services, and it's also a requirement for the Section 8 and home programs, which is the Housing Division, falls purview to that. So definitely we can have them come out and give us an update on where they are in the process.
All right, thank you.
Have we used a consultant before? On the
Committee
CDBG
member,
side?
Committee member Armenian, we have used them before. They have worked on the analysis of impediments in years past, and they've worked on a portion of the consolidated plan in years past. They were awarded the contract because they have a pretty good following with cities in Southern California and the city of Salinas, California.
So the same consultant?
The same consultant has actually worked on the Long Beach, City of Long Beach plan, City of Santa Clarita, and now us. And we're very comparable to the City of Santa Clarita, so that was really one of the main reasons why we chose them.
Okay, we're good. Okay, what's next?
Chair Garibian, this is an action item which we are requesting a motion for approval.
Okay, so
I make a motion to approve the program planning schedule as stated.
Second?
roll call.
Thank you. Committee members Armenian,
Yes.
Ramirez is absent, Gazarian? Yes. Vice Chair Avedissian,
Yes.
Chair Garibian.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, 482, report regarding reprogramming of $10,000 returned from fiscal year 2019-2020, All for Health, Health for All gift program. At A is a motion providing direction to reprogram the $10,000 in return returned fiscal year 2019-2020 CDBG Public Social Services funds from All for Health, Health for All gift program.
Chair Caribbean, members of the committee, on June 14th, the Public Social Services funded agency All for Health, Health for All sent a letter to CDBG staff informing us that they are returning their $10,000 allocation for fiscal year 1920. The letter gave few details for the return. They felt it was a small grant and it would require much reporting and it would consume their resources. They have a much robust funding opportunities in the field of healthcare for state and other private funds, so they decided to give the funding back. Therefore, staff is seeking direction from the committee on how to reprogram the $10,000 to one or more public social services projects, which are approved for funding this year. We have a guide for you on page 2. It's a table that shows how the committee has funded the agencies in fiscal year 1920 at the prior meetings we've had, and I think Iris will be putting up a worksheet on the screen so the committee may deliberate.
And can you refresh my memory, since I wasn't at the meeting, the previous amount on April 22nd that was reallocated, where was that coming from? Was that just additional funds?
That additional funds.
Additional fund.
Just from HUD?
HUD came back, and when they gave the final funding, they had an additional fund of $11,800, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
So this letter that back in June 14, that's the letter they sent over to them?
That's their official letter stating that they were going to
Yes, okay.
return the funds.
Okay, good. Okay. For the 10,000, if you guys, who wants to go first?
Oh, you have public comments on this item, don't you?
Yeah, we're going to do the public comments now? Okay, let's do that. Let's see, I have an order. Taller and Tabian.
Good afternoon. My name is Talat. I'm here today on behalf of the Armenian Relief Society Social Services regarding this action item where there's been $10,000 returned from another agency for the current fiscal year. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of ARS to request consideration for these funds to benefit our community outreach program. ARS received a funding reduction this fiscal year compared to the last fiscal year in the amount of $8,809. While the funding that we received was reduced, we're continuing to witness a high demand from our community for the services that we're offering through this program. And at the same time, we continue to experience an increase in direct program-related costs. This year, we're set to serve at least 90 senior citizens through our ESL classes and 40 low-income individuals with employment services. We'll always continue to offer general social services, be that in the form of case management, completion of forms, assistance with housing, transportation. In the coming months, our agency is going to be experiencing a significant change to another grant-funded program. In following our cost allocation plan, we're foreseeing that the loss of one program is going to make for an increased share of costs for our remaining programs. This is especially so with our operational expenses that are essential for running our programs, including liability insurance, professional services such as accounting and audit requirements, communications, and we believe that receiving this additional funding would help make sure that the community outreach program is not impacted. Year after year, we have been making a tremendous impact in this community to benefit the welfare of residents of the city of Glendale, and we expend 100% of CDBG funds. We're hoping that through this additional funding, as always, we'll be able to operate this program in the most effective and efficient way possible. We thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Somebody ask a question?
You referenced you were losing funding.
Correct.
Can you give us more details on that?
We currently operate a refugee employment and acculturation services program under a subcontract with Catholic Charities of Los Angeles. The County of Los Angeles released a new RFP for this program for the coming 3-year term, and there were 3 agencies that applied as a lead for this program for the new contract term, including ARS, Catholic Charities, and Jewish Vocational Services. The new contract has been awarded to Jewish Vocational Services. So that would mean our subcontract will end at the end of November.
So that means Catholic Charities is also...
They have also lost the program, yes.
Do you know the amount of that particular program only?
Currently, for ARS,
Or combined?
I wouldn't, it's over $1 million
for-
combined, but
for ARS.
ARS, $148,000 annually.
How long you had it for? Just annually? So
This has been a 3-year contract
3-year contract.
under the REIS program, but ARS has operated the REP program, Refugee Employment, through LA County for over 25 years.
Another question. Another question. Mr. Azari, questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have next Marlene Galvez.
Hi, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Marlene Galvez, and I am the business manager for the Salvation Army in Glendale. I am here to plead our case to receive some of the funds that were returned to CDBG to continue to fund the zone after-school program. We received $26,397. They were allocated. These funds will be used entirely for the coordinator's salary. We are experiencing hardship in the program, and we had 3 part-time members that had to be terminated because there's no funds to fund staff. So the additional funding that we're requesting will cover an additional maybe $3,000 for salary and then $2,000 for supplies for the program. Like I said, the original amount allocated for us is just salary. So we have nothing allocated for school supplies, sports, activities, crafts, educational and recreational. So any little bit, would help. Again, even if it's just for the supplies for the after-school program. We also had to change the program where we service 100 kids. Normally this year we had to reduce to 50. That's how hard our program is just experiencing hardship. Again, any funds available for the program will certainly benefit the zone after-school program. Any questions?
Anyone?
No.
Just quickly, the ones that your numbers dropped, do you guys know is there other options? Where do they go? Any other similar ones in the city that you guys refer them to? So if somebody comes to you and say, I have no room, where do you send them? You say, I'm sorry?
Yes, we're working with Glendale Unified School District to collect information of all the programs available to the community. We're going to have a sign-up sheet, so we will know in advance, the kids that will be coming, and hopefully by then have a list of all the resources what kids could attend another after-school program.
From the previous year, can you name few, or do you know of any? Or
Well, right now I just know of the Glendale Unified School District, some of the schools, but I can't,
Okay.
I don't know off the top
Thank
of my
you.
head.
I
Sorry.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susanna Sarkisian.
Hi there. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity to present again, and thank you to the staff because they've been very helpful in this process. So my name is Susanna. I work for AGBU. We run Generation Next out of the YWCA on Lexington, and we provide an after-school program for middle school and high school students. Basically, what we're asking for is the $10,000 to go towards helping us provide tutoring for the students. When we initially applied to CDBG, we had requested $20,000 and we only received $10,000. So this $10,000 would really help us in providing tutoring for after school, 40s a week, 2 hours per tutor, and there would be 2 tutors. So we would do math and science and language and English, history, language arts, sorry. So this funding is very important to us because the first 2 hours that the students are there, we provide them with homework help to make sure that we can help them increase their grades in school. That's one of the aspects of the program for our Generation Next program. We also offer weekly and biweekly activities and workshops depending on each month. We do a speaker series with the students. We do activities with their parents. We really try to provide wraparound services for the students, get them in touch with a lot of the other services that are offered in Glendale, including some of the groups that are here today. So we would really appreciate if the committee would consider giving the $10,000 to AGBU so that we could provide tutoring for the students.
Questions?
I have a question, a couple questions. So you got half the amount that you asked for before. So how have you been dealing with that shortfall? Have you been supplementing it with your own dollars, or have you cut the program back, the scale of the program back?
So our program hasn't started yet because the school year just began. It starts in October. That was actually a decision that we made with the staff, with their advice. And so we are starting our program in October. So getting the funds before that would really help us in making sure that once we kind of hit the ground running, we go full force.
But this just came up, so presumably you were going to move forward with the program.
Yes.
Before this. So how were you going to deal, how were you, or were you planning on dealing with the shortfall in funding?
So one of the options that we were considering was to do alternating the tutors to come so that we don't have both tutors each day. But we've noticed that with the students from last semester, because again, we haven't started this year, it's important for us to have 2 tutors there because one, depending on how many students we have each day, that does fluctuate. But having the 2 tutors helps also because they're covering different topics. So not letting the students wait, until the next day for them to be able to, especially if they have a homework assignment due. Let's say they come on Monday, they only have the math tutor there, but they need help with English, and then they have it due on Tuesday, they're not able to receive that service. So being able to provide both tutors Monday through Thursday, and then there's no tutoring on Fridays.
So that's your plan if you don't get additional funds?
Technically,
to
yeah. That would
launch
be the
program?
only way, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No. Just quickly, how many kids you have enrolled?
So last year, it was the first official school year that we had. We were operating somewhere between 15 to 20 students on average. But again, it does fluctuate because it's an after-school program. But this year, we're doing a lot of outreach to make sure that we can grow the program. A lot of people don't know that we were located in the YW, given that it was the first year and we're in the lower level. So that's something that we're working on this year to increase the numbers. So I don't have exact numbers for you because the program hasn't started. But I could provide more of that information once we're,
30 days away, you should have applications and numbers.
Yes, absolutely, but I can't guarantee that. I mean, I don't want to give a number that's not accurate, that's why.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Karina Grigorian.
Good afternoon, Karina Gregorian with the Glendale Youth Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be here today. For the past 26 years, the Glendale Youth Alliance has been providing employment opportunities to low-income and disadvantaged youth in our community. Currently, we operate 5 programs. We serve 400 to 500 youth annually, and over the past 26 years, we've impacted the lives of over 10,500 youth. Unfortunately, every year our operational costs increase and our grant funding decreases. So this year we requested $62,000, a little bit over $62,000. Last year we were funded at the $50,000 level, $50,500, and this year we got a pretty significant cut at $37,000. So I would respectfully ask your consideration to increase the allocation to fill the gap for our funding.
Questions?
I guess I'll ask the same question. There's obviously a gap, delta between what you asked for and what you got. Assuming you don't get any of this $10,000, what impact does that have on you?
We try to stretch every dollar, so depending on how much funding we receive will determine how many youth we can serve. So every dollar that we can allocate towards serving the youth, we do. So if we need to allocate additional funds to staff costs, then the level of youth that we serve may decrease.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Saeed Hamidi, Catholic Charities.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. And just to say all the good things that we hear from all the organizations and just the little money that we have, it's really hard to determine, in my humble opinion. It's just so hard. But just a little bit about our program. Our program through CDBG does two main parts of the case management. First, of course, we do the poverty services, which goes to helping homeless, registering for different services that our clients need, and also registering and referring them to the other services that if we don't have. Catholic Charities currently, like in my building, we have immigrations, we have food pantry, we have financial assistance programs, and we have employment that we do. And then also we do the poverty prevention services, which comes like directly helping families with a 1 month rent or 1 month utility, making sure that they are not on the street, or make sure that the lights are not off or the utilities are not cut off. That's the main aspect of our program. The funding we requested, of course, I would say this time was the least funding that we were expecting from CDBG, that we received $25,000. My humble request from the committee and from the staff is if we can at least receive the 50% of our old program funding for Catholic Charities. And as you know, that always this program went hand in hand with Catholic Charities' own funding through our corporate, through our donors. We love this program because it helps us achieve all our other goals through other programs as well. The homeless prevention, the pantry, and the other county programs that we have. Because through case management, we determine where we need to take action and how fast we can take action. So this program is actually a cherry on the top, I would say. Thank you. Any questions? I'm more than willing to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we need to start deliberating.
Chair Arabian, if I may, just from a staff perspective, one thing I wanted to say as you start your deliberation to take into consideration is, depending on what the decisions are, staff will have to go back and do amendments to each of the contracts and renegotiate the services they'll be able to provide and the number of people served. So just keep that in mind as far as both the staff resources necessary and also the impact that the additional funding will have for each of the agencies.
So you're saying split it 10 ways? No,
Whatever
that's not
the
what you're
decision
saying?
of the committee is, but just to keep that in mind as well, because $1,000 each may not make as large of an impact as 2 to 3 each.
I'm just joking with you, putting a little levity in our difficult
You
decisions.
said 2 or 3. Right. Anyone wants to go first?
Oh,
You want to go first? Go.
what? I'll wait.
You wait? Okay.
I'll wait.
Armenian?
I just can't. There is no one organization that is worthy of the other. So they all equally have same values and same quality service that they give to community. So it's very hard for us, for me particularly, to decide over one over the other or how much. So bear with us. We try our best.
Are you going to give us some numbers?
Just to make the life a little bit easier for the staff in working the progress of all the paperwork and everything else that they have to redo, all the recontracting and rewriting, everything else, and the organizations that might help them a little bit more and effectively, and that they haven't received as much this year, I would suggest to go 50-50, basically, between the Youth Alliance and Catholic Charities. And that's my suggestion.
Are we gonna do this on the Excel, or
It's right there.
shall we just?
Let's go around.
Chair Garipian, let me know if you just want me to plug it in now or
That's what I'm
that
thinking.
way.
Shall we do it now, or shall we just,
I was going to suggest let's go one round.
yeah, why don't we go around, so don't
See
enter
where
it now.
people's heads are at,
Exactly.
and then we can.
That's right, okay, go ahead.
I'm, of course, torn on this in many different ways with all the organizations that are here today especially, but I'm quite concerned, to be frank, on the news that I'm hearing for the first time in terms of the non-renewal of the refugee services contract between Catholic Charities and ARS. That's kind of disturbing that, you guys have been at it for a very long time with a solid track record, in our opinion, certainly from the Glendale perspective. So for the county not to renew that, I wish we had known earlier, because I personally would have tried to weigh in and try and provide some support, in terms of the decision making. Having said that, that decision's made at this point, so I would want to propose that the ARS be one of the recipients. The other one, I think I'm looking at Catholic Charities, because we funded them under 50% of what their request was, and in the past, we have given them a lot more. Number one, in the past, because of some issues, they actually returned a significant amount of money back to us. I know it wasn't on the social service side, it was, I think, on the capital side. Having said that, there was a year where we gave no money from either program to Catholic Charities. And so, I'd suggest the other half go to Catholic Charities. They do a lot of work with our homelessness issue. One of the reasons we don't see it as badly as the issue we see in other cities, neighboring cities particularly, is because we have these organizations doing really, really hard work on the ground to get people off the streets, and that requires a lot of funding and commitment. And not just the people who receive the services benefit, but the overall community benefits, because we're able to get people off the streets. All you need to do is go across the border to Eagle Rock, and you see the situation hit you in any direction that you go outside of Glendale. So for that reason, I want to propose that Catholic Charities, again, I'm proposing a 50-50 split, but I'm kind of also expressing kind of where I see the priorities for this limited amount of money.
Okay. Mr. Gazari?
I'm thinking to split it in 4 ways. ARS for 3,000, Catholic Charity 3,000, Glendale Youth Alliance 2,000, AGBU 2,000.
All right. So we're all over the place, aren't we? Okay. Yeah, obviously, funding has been an issue this year. And all of you guys got caught in funding. And few reasons, the fund amount was the same, but we had more agencies who applied. And we just couldn't turn down other agencies because we had to cut from some of you guys. And I'm sure you guys understand being the same shoe as the other agencies are. So yes, that was not helping the existing ones, but definitely helped the new ones, like such as AGBU, who just joined us this year. But nevertheless, each one of you guys do a special, unique job, from homelessness to kids to, I mean, it's you can't just pick which one is better versus the other one. They're all equally necessity, and it's important. So it's a very hard decision, and it's very obvious. Splitting it 10 ways really doesn't serve anyone any good, and staff time and everything else just defeats the purpose. And and with my colleagues, I see everyone, and they're all correct. They all have their own, and they're all right. And it's very hard decisions, but for the same reasons that you guys spoke, and you guys are here, so thank you for you guys to being here. But again, because of individual programs, for now, I'm leaning to split it to 5 ways. So to have Armenian Relief Society, Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, Glendale Youth Alliance, and Door of Hope. That's pretty much the direction I was going. If anyone wants to do, or it's up to do any changes, you may go first.
No, I'd just comment that I think splitting it that many ways while trying to spread it around does not help staff in terms of the number of contracts that they need to renegotiate. In addition, I would say I kind of think that the 2,000 will be lost in the process in terms of the paperwork, and it's not really going to help any one of the organizations in a meaningful way, which is one of the reasons, as much as I would love to spread it out to everyone, but I don't think we end up having the impact. We'll check the box, but we won't have the impact. So I'm trying to look for a little bit of impact, which is why I tried to concentrate amongst 2 organizations. In my thinking.
That's exactly the same reasoning. That's the way I suggested it, because 2,000 or 1,000 or 3,000, I don't know, if it really may affect the organization to do their program effectively with a small amount, not even considering what the staff time and staff work is going to be, going to be involved. Just as an organizational point, I don't think that it's not going to affect them, their time and all that's going through. So that's why if we can compromise on one or the other organizations, but then again, I think 2-way split would be the most efficient way. Unfortunately, so sorry for everybody else, but I think that would be the most efficient way. At least get 2 organizations some so-called serious money that they can work on it, use it.
Chair Arabian, members of the committee, just to add from a staff perspective, my intent wasn't to necessarily discourage the work or say that we don't want to do it, but more so from the perspective of committee member of Adesian mentioned, was what would the impact be from the agencies? As long as they say they're able to serve more people with the additional funds provided, it will add to the program. The work is fine. It's just that we find that sometimes it's hard to ask them to do more with a very small amount of addition. So for at least the agencies that are here in the audience, we could always call them up and ask them what more can they do for the amount that is being provided. And if they're able to do more, then that is fine. So I just wanted you to know it's not necessarily that we're discouraged because of the amount of work it takes to amend the contracts, but the impact that it also makes for the agencies. So just to clarify. So we're okay if you want to split it 10 ways. It's just what will be the impact and is it worth that?
If such things comes up next time, shall we ask the interviewers to say, hey, this is the minimum I want, if not, don't even bother?
You're welcome to ask them. I mean, as they come up, if they're here present, you're welcome to ask them. And it's just, we did email the agencies, all of them, and let them know that the funds are, this report is on the agenda and there is additional funds available. So for those agencies that were able to make it or found that they would like the additional funds, I'm assuming they were able to come. So you're welcome to call them up and ask, would the additional $2,000 make a difference, and what kind of a difference, and then maybe you can weigh that in your decision making, whether that impact would be worth that. So
instead of calling them up, can I just have them raise their hands?
Whatever you like.
So I don't want to waste their time and all that, but is there a minimum from any of you 5 that are here that it's anything less than that you wouldn't want it, you'll pass to next agency?
Chair Caribbean, if I may, just for transparency purposes, and since this is a televised meeting, it would be great if the audience...
Can we have all 5 of you guys come to the podium? Instead of one at a time? So this is not only for this time round, this actually helps us moving forward to the, so for example, any of you guys can say, hey, 2,000 or 4,000, this is the minimum. If not, I'm willing to pass it to my partner agencies. Is there a minimum that you would prefer to have?
I think
Or
it's
anything.
somewhat unfair or tough for them
They're all
to
gonna
answer
answer the
because
same
they want, everybody wants whatever they
No,
can
no,
get,
a
as much as they
minimum,
can
to
get.
say
And I
a
would-
minimum.
We would appreciate any amount given to us.
So you have
but
no
of
minimum?
course, if the greater the amount, the more impact
Of
we would
course.
be able to.
Of course, but you don't have a minimum base.
I apologize, Chair Caribbean, if I also may make a suggestion. If when someone is speaking, if they could please state their name
Oh, sure.
again for the record, and also the name of the agency, and just to speak one at a time into the mic, so that it's easier for the
Okay.
viewing audience to hear as well.
So,
Karina Gregorian, Glendale Youth Alliance.
a quick question, any minimum or no minimum?
For us, I mean, at least 1,500 would equate one additional youth.
That's how, next. State your name and say any minimum or no minimum.
Susanna Sargisian from AGBU. Given that we were from the groups that are present today funded the least, I would say we don't have a minimum because we will take anything that the advisory committee gives us, and that'll help us with offering as many hours of tutoring as we possibly can, because the students that we serve, for the most part, they're at-risk youth, and they're usually not doing and receiving the best grades in school, so it is important to us to provide that service for them.
I appreciate it, thank you.
But sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there an amount, though, that would, with which you could do something additional other than saying, you know, for example, the previous speaker talked about serving one more youth. Is a certain amount getting you, I don't know, full-time tutor versus a half-time tutor, or?
Sure. So what I can say is if the advisory board were to allocate $1,254, that would give us one tutor for 1 week additional.
Through the duration of the program?
Yes.
Okay,
One tutor for 1 week.
who wants to go next?
Sorry, Tyler, would you mind please speaking into the mic? Thank you.
Talarain Tablian for Armenian Relief Society. I'm humbly going to request at least 50%, $5,000. I believe that amount would help bring us close to last year's program outcomes, and we'd be able to serve 35 to 40 additional clients through this ESL and employment services, and also bring our administration time back to what it was with last year's funding.
Thank you.
Hi again, Marlene from the Salvation Army. Truthfully, we'll take anything, even if it's $500 to buy school supplies for the year. We'll take $100, we'll take $500. Obviously, $2,000 will buy a lot more supplies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Saeed Hamidi, again from Catholic Charities. For us as well, since the money is going to case managements and program coordinators' salary, so I would say there is no minimum for that. The more hours that we can add, the more time we get to talk to the homeless clients, student takes, or talk to the families who needs help, so we avoid the eviction or avoid being homeless. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. So as you guys heard, besides Armenian Relief Society, nobody really has a minimum. Actually, we're above the minimum. But between you two, before going to Mr. Gazarian, both of you are not in the same agencies. You agreed to have two, but not the same two. So we're there? Okay, so let's go, Mr. Gazarian.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Okay.
No, it's your, if you want to change anything or you want to stick to your guns, or, I mean, last we left off there.
No, I'm staying with the same.
You're staying on your own decisions, okay. Mr. Mr. Armenia, one more time, your two was just to, can we put them up now?
It started with ARS and Catholic Charities, 5,000, 5,000.
And you were
Catholic Charities and Youth Alliance.
Youth Alliance. So you guys are at least on Catholic Charities. And Mr. Gazarian, you picked Catholic Charities too, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
right? And I picked Catholic Charities too. So at least we got all on Catholic Charities.
And what were the amounts? Mine was 5.
5 and 5, right?
Five.
5 and 5. And you split
Three
it
and
3
two.
ways? Or
You were 2.
3.
3 ways?
3.
No, 4 ways, but Catholic Charity, 3,000.
Oh, 3,000 Catholic
So
Charities.
3, 2, 5, 5.
Yeah.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, if staff may provide you with some detail, just to give you an overall perspective. When the funding was originally recommended, 62% went to youth programs, 22% went to adult and senior programs, and 16% went to homeless services programs, just to give you that perspective of where the money is in the community currently.
So, sorry, can you repeat that?
I will
62?
repeat that. 62% for youth programs, 22% for adult and senior programs, and 16% for homeless services.
I normally don't like numbers such because it's misleading because how many applied for Youth Alliance, that percentage could change based on the numbers. But nevertheless, thanks for the information, but I don't want to rely based on those numbers.
But I believe we had a discussion in one of the previous sessions where we talked about the split between the categories.
No. I assume, I'm saying if 6 were Youth Alliance and we funded 6, obviously it's a bigger percentage versus
Right.
if 2 were.
Chair Garibian, would it help you if I added columns onto the
Sure.
spreadsheet with all of your names on there and what you've
Yeah.
all recommended so far?
Yeah,
I know
don't
we've
have too
done that
many
in the
columns,
past.
just in one column, just put all names. You can put like,
You
in
can.
one cell, you can put 2 names or 3 names. If you can do that.
Okay.
Just add one column, and next to the agency, write whoever names or initials will be fine.
It wouldn't have the amounts
You
though,
won't.
or you want me to include the amounts?
It won't
The
calculate.
amount, it's
It won't
easy.
calculate. If you put initials, it won't calculate.
Okay, that's
numbers.
fine, that's fine, do it whichever way you're comfortable.
Whatever helps you, I'll do.
I didn't want her to add one column.
Yeah.
If you
don't
average,
have to
if you average
calculate,
our
actually.
Catholic Charities, it's 3,750 between what we're proposing, which is 5,532.
Yeah, it's 3,750.
105,500.
I'm sorry, if you could please speak into the mic.
Right now, just add the names. Dollar, it's easy for us to calculate, but like Armenian Relief Society, who said? I said, Mr. Gazarian, Mr. Zanku, right? So you can put 3 initials of our names right there, yeah. That's fine.
Put Z.
Just put Z, G, and R, whatever.
ZA.
Okay,
what was
sorry.
that? What I was saying?
ZAZ.
I forget your first names
5.
because I don't always, RG, right? And-
Mine, that's fine, that's good. And Mr.
Oh, I see what
Mr.
you did.
Gazarian was also, is there a moment with this?
I'm sorry, I
NG.
forget.
Mr. Gazarian.
NG.
Okay, let me just do this.
There we go. Thank you.
That was it, right?
That was it. And then I think next one was what, Catholic Charities?
Yep, all 4.
No, Catholic Charities.
Yeah, all 4.
All
All
4 of
four,
us.
yes, that's correct.
Just put all.
All right. And Youth Alliance
Armik,
was me and,
Avedisian. Kazarian.
Azarian and Laribian. Oh,
and I think I had Dora Hope, if I'm not mistaken.
you had a Dora Hope.
And I think I had Salvation Army?
AGBU? you
Yeah,
have-
Salvation Army.
That's Salvation Army.
And Salvation Army for Arabian. Number 10.
I'm like looking for it, sorry. Oh, here it is. Salvation Army, it was just Caribbean, right?
Yes. So to help out my colleagues, since they're not, they're standing very strong on their options, I'm gonna take out the Dora Hope and pass it down to the other four that I nominated. So we can take Dora Hope out. So I'm at 4 places. We're all on 3 places, pretty much. So Mr. Gazarian, I think, has the single. Mr. Gazarian, do you want to help me out here? I took one.
Yeah, I'll keep mine.
3222.
Anyone else? Anything? Any
I
other
didn't get much.
ideas?
AGB should get something. I didn't get much.
Okay, let's see. Can I suggest something else to make it? No. I'll change my mind. I'm not suggesting anything.
Want to whisper it to me?
Okay. If you do.
No, I mean, I'm willing to, like I said, I was trying to concentrate it on less, just to have more impact. But if it seems like at least half the committee wants to go more, I mean, less with more. So if we need to add one, I suppose we could go down from my proposal.
Just to keep in mind, Armenian Relief Society said there is a minimum for her.
Yeah.
That means that brings me down to 2 agencies if you follow her suggestion, and I don't know if that's going to be fair.
Well, unless you did, 5, 2.5, 2.5 type of thing.
But she doesn't want it.
Who doesn't want it?
She said minimum 5,000.
Who?
That's what she said.
I know, that's why I'm saying 5, and then 2.5,
Oh, I
2.5.
see. But what was your suggestion?
2.5.
I'm just saying, we got to, in my opinion, I'm still uncomfortable with splitting it as many ways as,
Yeah, it's
Splitting it too many
loses the purpose of the dollars.
you would split it 3 ways?
4.
Oh, AGB, you would do,
Yeah.
okay. 3,322.
Yeah.
Different dollar amounts.
Yeah. You had gone 5, you're going down to 4.
Yeah. I'm waiting for someone else to catch up with me. I went first, so you guys feel better.
If that's the case, how about ARS 5,000, 3,000 Catholic Charities, and 2,000 Salvation Army? Because I really know that Salvation Army, the kids program, how effective it is, not considering the percentages that was given to us. So it will be somewhat between everybody. What?
Just take out his name from Youth Allowance.
From
No.
where?
Youth Allowance.
I really would want to have it 2 ways to make a real impact, but the way it seems like nobody is in that same page.
I apologize, Vice Chair Avedisian. Would you please clarify which agencies you would like to see it split amongst?
Just the way you have it.
5,000 ARS, 3,000 Catholic Charities, and 2,000 Salvation Army.
Mr. Armenia, are you close enough with what Mr. Avedisian suggested?
You said 5 ARS, 3
Five,
Catholic,
three,
2
two.
Salvation.
I know 2,000 with Salvation is going to make us some impact, and it's going to help.
Well, according to what they said, at least 2,000 would cover the supplies.
Yeah.
I can go with that.
He's suggesting same as Mr. Avedisian.
Okay.
So please. With the same dollar amounts, 532. Mr. Kazarian,
Do you want to,
Keep in mind,
you don't
I'm
want to
staying 4 ways.
stay 4 ways? Okay.
I can't.
So the only place, other than the amounts, putting aside the amounts, the place where you're differing from the other two is GYA, right?
Yes. And the dollar amounts.
Yeah, and but you're still on the 4 versus the
I'm still
3.
on the 4 versus. I'm not even the same 4 as Mr. Kazarian is, right? Different 4.
Correct.
The difference is pretty.
Obviously, every one of them, it's no matter what you do, it's not a option that I want to go for. But obviously, we have so much to consider. It's not just the dollar. Obviously, and it's not the work. Absolutely not the work. I mean, all the agencies, they deserve every single one of them. So I'm definitely not picking due to the agency's work or what they do or how much they need. But obviously, we want somebody to really get to use of it and have the most out of the funds available, which they all will anyway. But yet at the same time, I don't think it's fair for. Okay, take Glendale Youth Alliance out. Let's just go with the same. I'll agree with that. We'll just do 532. I agree with that as well. So it's up to Mr. Kazarian if he wants to do any changes. So I don't know if you understood what we have. It's
Yeah.
clear? Okay. So you want to put the numbers next to them too, might as well, please?
Next to each person's name, how much
No,
you're
just the agency, because I think we all agree the same except Mr. Kazarian.
Mr. Gozarian actually agreed on the Catholic Charities amount, which is the 3, right?
Yes.
So we're in agreement on that
Okay.
one.
So,
That's 5,000, all three of us agreed on that number.
He had agreed to ARS as a candidate, just a different amount. We're saying 5, he was saying 3.
so for Catholic Charities,
Catholic Charity is 3,000, we agreed on except Mr. Kazarian. How much was yours?
His was 3.
3,000.
3,000, so we agreed on the same,
Glendale Youth Alliance, only
Uh,
Gazarian.
only Kazarian.
Okay.
How much, Mr. Kazarian, was that one?
2,000.
2,000.
AGBU 2,000.
How much, I'm sorry, for AGBU?
2,000.
Thank you.
Okay. And the dollar amount on the...
I'm sorry, for Catholic Charities?
3.
Catholic Charities was 3?
Yeah.
All right. So from 70, we did 47, and then we did 5 more.
So staff just has to come up with 5,000 more and we're good.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Maybe each of us can chip in $1,000.
sure, if I'm legally
That was only,
option, it would have been great. So where are we with this right now? So we have 3 of us that it's same agency, same dollar amounts, am I correct?
That is
Charities.
correct. So if somebody wanted to make a motion stating the numbers, or I could read out.
Well, I think Mr. Gazarian is there, so Mr. Gazarian, you're not changing your numbers or the positions, okay? Anyone wants to make a motion?
Well, but
Just,
Go ahead.
sorry, Chair Rabin, just to be sure, the numbers up there are a bit confusing. I'm not sure which 3 agencies we're looking at right now because.
Oh, Irish, no,
So
Irish, you
could
want to
we-
change the colors
Could we
of-
maybe,
The ones that everybody agrees on, I'll highlight in green or something. Or maybe the ones that nobody, or that only one person agreed on. Let's see.
and this is why I asked because it doesn't add up to 10,000.
yeah, because we had said 532.
Yeah.
2
we
of
did
us.
532.
So it's
on
5
the-
ARS, 3 Catholic, 2 Salvation.
So us 3, we agreed on 2,000 Salvation Army. Mr.
Okay.
Gazarian wanted 3,000.
Yeah.
So Salvation Army needs to change to 2.
Zion didn't
Catholic was 3,000. I'm not in a Salvation Army.
use
At
it.
all. Correct.
Oh, so update the Salvation Army to 2,000, please.
Sure.
All right, that makes sense, right? Is that correct, the way you wanted it?
I'm not in.
You have
Salvation.
AGBU 2,000, you have Youth Alliance 2,000?
No. Youth.
AGBU 2,000. You had GYC
Youth
2,000.
Alliance,
Catholic
2,000,
3.
Yes.
2,000, right?
ARS
Okay, so we're
3.
correct. So 2,000 AGBU, 2,000 Youth Alliance, and then you wanted
You wanted 3 for
3,000 for Catholic Charities, and
3,000 ARs.
get 3,000 ARS versus 5,000, okay. So the agencies are correct, those 5 names, except the only difference we have on Armenian Relief Society, we are at 5,000, Mr. Gazarian's at 3,000.
Right.
The rest, it is the way on board.
Yeah.
So no one wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, out of the 10,000 returned by the gift program, that we allocate 5,000 to ARS, 3,000 to Catholic Charities, and 2,000 to Salvation Army.
Iris?
Sorry, just to avoid confusion with the committee, could we just remove the 2 agencies that are not being recommended on the motion before we get a second and a vote, please?
When you say not being recommended by the motion?
By the motion,
Okay,
correct.
got it. Just
So the motion is as you see on the screen.
correct.
So if there's a second,
5,000, 3,000, 2,000. I'll second it.
Committee members Armenian,
Yes.
Ramirez is absent, Gazarian,
No.
Vice Chair Avedisian,
Yes.
Chair Garibian.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. What's next?
Next on the agenda is 4B, reports information only. At 1 is receive report regarding status of fiscal year 2018-19 CDBG capital improvement projects.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, staff would like to give you a summary on the status of our current capital improvement projects with an update on city CIP projects, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Armina Hunanyan, who has an update for our community CIP projects. Currently, the Pacific Park Playground and Pool Shade Structure Project and Splash Pad Project is in design phase, and design and construction drawings have been completed and the project is ready to take the next steps. Currently, the city is working on LA County permits for the water feature for the splash pad. Both the playground and pool shade structure and the splash pad project are slated to be completed by December 2020. For the Pacific Park Artificial Turf Multipurpose Field Project, this is the conversion of the existing natural turf baseball field to a multi-purpose artificial turf field. And just last week, Council approved a motion to execute a professional services agreement with David Volt's Design, Landscape, and Architects for professional design services that the project will be expected to be completed by fall of 2021. And I'm going to turn it over now to Armina to give you an update on the community CIP projects.
Good afternoon, Chair Garibian and committee members. Currently, we have Adventist Health Glendale Windows project, which we're still in the environmental process with that project. We're working with our planning department and the agency to ensure that all the environmental paperwork is completed. So the project is pending. The agreement has been amended till December 31st of 2019. That project may go past 2019, but it's still pending. We're waiting to see what will happen with the environmental. The building is pretty old, and we have environmental concerns and issues with that. And it is my understanding that currently staff is working with HUD to ensure that this project will move forward respectfully. Hopefully, we will finish in 2020. As it stands right now, we're still in the environmental process with that one. Armenian Cultural Foundation, the Youth Solar Panel Project, the Youth Center for the Solar Panel Project, material has been ordered and delivered this week. Construction will start next week, September 3rd. Agreement is amended till December of 2019. That project is expected to finish by end of October or beginning of November. That project, we anticipate to do a grand opening sometime early January of next year. Homeentment has the main campus and the North Campus security camera projects. We have gone into bidding process twice with that project. We were successful to get a contractor who won the bid. We are working on the reports on the agreement with the contractor and the agency, and we're hoping to start those two security cameras projects late September. Again, agreements have been amended till December. The construction phase of this project should be about 3 to 4 weeks maximum, so we are on track on that, and we're glad to report that that project will go through. HVAC for Homeentment Glendale Chapter North Campus, we have gone through the bidding process. We have received a reliable contractor. We're working with the contractor to complete all the paperwork. Construction should again start sometime September, mid-September to late September. Agreement has been amended, and we've given them time to finish the project till end of December of 2019. As of right now, we don't anticipate any issues or concerns with that project, and we should be completed by end of this program year. Homeentment, our gym divider for the main campus, we had gone out to bid the project for 3 times. We were unsuccessful to find a contractor who will be able to do this project. However, through the sole sourcing and through more outreach, we were able to find one contractor. We're actually meeting with the contractor tomorrow. We are confident that this contractor will go through and anticipate to finish the project end of December, depending on the lead time on the material ordering. But we're confident that this project will go through as well. YWC of Glendale Sunrise Village Emergency Shelter Garage Project is in construction right now currently. We're moving forward with it. We anticipate to finish end of November or beginning of November, depends on some of the survey concerns we've had the last couple of weeks. But we are on track with that project again. We anticipate to finish the project end of November, and hopefully we have 2 grand openings for January, one for the solar panel project and one for the YWCA. So that will be the nutshell of the projects currently we have from fiscal year 2018-2019. The current projects for the 2019-2020 are environmental process, the remaining of the capital improvement projects. Any questions?
One question, just to refresh my memory. On the solar, all the solar projects, we had instituted some reporting, right, so that we can see, the committee can see the offsets in operational costs and how those offsets will be used in benefit to end users at the end of the day of the facilities, correct?
Correct. And we have a specific report for you guys to update you on that. We are working with all of our agencies. So after the completion of each solar panel project, agencies have to report for 24 months. And they also have to do their, give us a report on their maintenance process and any funding that they were able to save through their solar panel projects, they have to reprogram that funding through their current projects. We are requesting information as to what programs they reprogram that funding, and we are doing an annual monitoring on that. But again, just to let the committee know, it's based on completion of the project 24 months after that. So after that, really, the staff doesn't require any quarterly reports or anything beyond that, but we will have a report that staff is recommending for your duration of the looking at the project. So we could, Maggie's going to go through that more in detail, but we have prepared a lengthy report that shows all the kilowatts that was saved, all the program cost that was saved, how much they used to pay for utilities, and how much they have saved through the solar panel projects for the 4 completed solar panel projects that we currently have.
Thank you. Any other question? I think just being on this, touching on the solar, Mr. Gazzari, any questions? I think obviously the integration issue that we have, and I've been to a couple of the focus group meetings, we're trying to save megawatt or kilowatts, which he's the expert in this field as well. And I think the solar, irrelevant of immediately helping the use of the agency, it would help as a whole Glendale, if I'm not mistaken, right? For bringing the energy down so we can rely more on the solar energy and cleaner energy versus the grazing that right now it's an issue that is not fully clean energy. So obviously the more solar we have should help in general everyone else and the dollar amount. So
in principle, yes. But if you total up the amounts of the ones that we have given money to, it's a negligible difference.
Oh, yeah.
But
we've got to start somewhere.
Small steps in the right direction.
Sure, yeah, it's a drop in the ocean, exactly, but we're going in the right direction.
Yep.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Item is 4B2, receive report regarding summary of performance. I'm sorry, my mic was off. 4B2, receive report regarding summary of performance for fiscal year 2018-19 CDBG social service programs.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, I again will introduce Armine Hunanian, who will update you on fiscal year 18-19 CDBG public social services programs. Armine?
Yes. Chair Garibian and committee members, we prepared a PowerPoint presentation as well as the end of the year performance and expenditure rate reports in front of you, so we could go through it. For Armenian Relief Society, it was the community outreach project. The proposed number that to be served was 165. The agency's actual served number was 170. They expended their 100% of their program, their funding as well. They have also exceeded both of their outcomes. Out of the 122 served that they were able to go into the ESL classes, 111 of them completed the program. The goal was 90%, but they reached 93%. out of the 48 individuals who received job search assistance, we had basically have them completed and gained employment at a 31%, which their goal was 30%. The agency has really been successfully completing and over-exceeding their numbers and expanding their funds on a timely manner. The next one is fair housing, which the proposed number for them to be served was 500. The actual that they served was 528. Again, they overachieved their goal. They spent 94% of their funding. Some of this funding, that we're still in process of paying out all the agencies. We have 2 agencies who are pending 2 invoices or 1 last invoice that are in the systems. Due to our Munis new financial systems, we're processing them as they come in. But we are expecting for the remaining of the funding to be completed. As far as the CDBG funding for the fair housing, it's 100% completed because the remaining funding comes from the Section 8, and the Section 8 funding is the one that they're currently is going to be billing last. So as far as CDBG funding, they are on 100% at this point. We had 2 workshops. They completed the 2 workshops. The goal for them was 85%, and they have reached their goals on that. For Catholic charities, they were supposed to serve 75, but they almost were there. They served 74. They spent all their funding. They met all their goals. They were supposed to be in 20% and 50% goal, but they've over-exceeded their goals, and they reached their goals. For Essentia, again, they were only supposed to serve 120. They served 126. They have expended almost all of their funding. They have about 337 or a change left. That should be their last invoice. Hopefully that would come through, and by end of this month or early next month, we will pay them out. They should be on 100%. They have met both of their goals. The agency has been really doing consecutively good all this program years that they've been with us. Glendale Youth Alliance, their proposed number was 50. They served 51. They have expended all of their funding. All 100 youth were placed in their, employment, and they were about 16% that were referred to community agencies for assessment of health and wellness. On this second goal, they were a little bit low this year, but we're working with the agency to make sure that they reached their 20%. I believe they were at 16%, so they were off about 4%. Sometimes it does happen, even though they try to refer, but they're not successful in completing their goals. So we look at their goals when we're negotiating with them for our current program years. We try to make sure that they come up with outcomes that they are able to meet and exceed, so they have successful programs. Salvation Army, their proposed number was 100. The actual number they served was 100, and they are 100% expended their funds. Of the 100 students that they enrolled in 2018-19, 34 were assessed multiple times in math, which the goal was 45%, and 24 of them were improved by 1 grade level. The goal for them was 50%. They overachieved. They were at 53%. So they really did well this year. They met their goals. Again, on their first goal, they even overachieved about 10%. CASP program, Intervention, Prevention, and Clinical Group Counseling Program. The proposed actual number served was 84. Actual number served was 60. This is one of the agencies that the number was not actually, the actual goal was not served. The numbers that they needed to serve were not served. We have monitored the agency. We have informed them, and we're working with them. Currently, for this program year, they're working on adding a new school and giving up one of their old schools. So hopefully that will help them achieve their numbers. So that's another overview of this program, that when we monitored and we worked with them, we have tried to gauge and see what their concern is and try to add another school. The 100% of their funding has been expanded. Again, The goals, one of the goals they were not able to reach, which is the numbers to be served, they're at 71%. So the agency is informed, we are informed as staff, and we're watching this program year to be a successful program year, hopefully, to ensure that all the numbers are being served and their outcomes are being met. And last but not least, the GIFT program, All for Health and Health for All. Proposed number to be served was 100, actual was 108. They have over-served. The funds expended was about 83%. We are waiting for their last month of billing. Again, this billing is because of our Munis system and could be in the system, so it could come for us to approval. It's in the approval process. We expect that all of our agencies will be spending 100% of their funding. Again, by end of September, if we don't have these funds expended, it will go back to HUD. So we're trying to ensure and make sure that these funds are being expended on timely manner. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Just to clarify, the funds that they're not spent at the end of the year, that goes directly to HUD, it doesn't come to
Correct.
the
It will not come
committee,
back to.
nothing.
No.
So we cannot tap in again.
You cannot reallocate them. No, it will go back to HUD.
Committee member, Chair Garibian, Committee member Avidisian, it goes back into not a slush fund, but it's a fund balance. And what we do is we reprogram that money into CIP projects. So it will go to a CIP project if there is money left over.
From whatever organization that is, correct?
Correct.
So it somewhat comes back to one of our programs?
The money goes into, yes, it's a fund balance that it goes into. But it will be reallocated into CIP funding and not social services funding.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, I had a question and a concern about CASPs. So we had made an effort to give them additional money so that they can go into an additional school.
We didn't.
I thought we did.
We didn't.
No, we didn't.
No, but I mean, they're in 3 now, right?
Not this year.
Yeah, we wanted to, but we didn't.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, Chair Armenian, you funded them for 3 schools, and they are currently speaking with GUSD and are in negotiations for a different school.
Yeah, to swap one out, that's what I'm saying.
Swapping one
So
out, yes.
So
it'll still remain 3
We
schools.
expanded them over time into 30 schools. They're trying to swap out one school because they're not getting enough interest? Is that why there's the shortfall?
It's not so much just the interest, it's the collaboration with the administration. And I think that that's something that they're working on. And the school that they're considering, which is John Marshall Elementary, has a new administrator who has had background in the CASPS program and was a champion of it. And I think that's the reasoning behind getting Marshall involved, Marshall Elementary School, which is also in the census tract. So that's really how CASPS is trying to alleviate the issue.
So the underperformance is due to an administrator in one of the schools not supporting them?
Well, it's a number of factors. It's basically a collaboration with the administration. There are a lot of programs at the particular school that children are tapping into, and then they were having issues with getting the documentation, and that was the main concern, getting families to sign off on all the HUD requirements. And that's really where they were hitting roadblocks.
Any other questions, Supervisor? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask Cass. So they wanted to add 4. So far, there's no plans of adding 4. They're just swapping 1. I just wanted to understand that part. Okay. Any other questions? We're good?
You're good.
All right, let's move on.
Next is item 4B3, receive report regarding community agency solar panel savings.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, staff has prepared a solar panel report to evaluate cost savings from CDBG-funded solar panel projects that was requested by the committee last year. We have a PowerPoint presentation for you to detail the information from that report. So the report report will cover project description, cost and usage analysis, maintenance and operation costs, if any were incurred. As you can see in this slide, to date, CDBG Advisory Committee has recommended funding to 4 community agencies for solar panel installation. Here's a timeline of the agencies and their funding. This report covers 3 agencies today that have completed their projects and are fully energized, while the 4th, Armenian Cultural Foundation, will complete their project in December of this year. We'll start out with Homenetmen Arat chapter. They had 2 phases to their project. Phase 1 of their system was energized in February of 2017, and phase 2 in February of 2018. We wanted to note that their municipal utility is the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, so LADWP handles that account. So here's the bill comparison and the breakdown for Ararat chapters years 2015 to 2018. They've had a 55% savings during that time in kilowatt per hour usage. They also reported that their agency saw a significant increase, a significant increase in kilowatt per hour pricing. So the savings was a little bit lower than Ararat had originally anticipated. Their average price per kilowatt hour is about 25 cents. Here we have, still again, from 2017 to 2018, Ararat had a $7,000 savings in which they used to purchase sports equipment and supplies. They've estimated their repair and maintenance costs at about $1,250, but they have not yet had a service. So their service will probably be planned in 2020. Next, we have Door of Hope, the shelter at the undisclosed location for women and children, which installed 80 solar panels in 2 phases. This agency is served by Glendale Water and Power. The breakdown for Door of Hope's bill comparison is from years 2016 to 2019. They've experienced a 30% savings in kilowatt per hour usage, and their agency's kilowatt average price has remained at roughly 20 cents. Savings from Door of Hope from 2017 to 2018 is around $4,997. And that savings was applied to their general operating expenses. They've yet to have any repair or maintenance because their system is so new, so we're waiting on that. Ascensia is the next agency. Their homeless shelter is for a 45-bed emergency housing program with 60 solar panels installed, and is also served by Glendale Water and Power. They were energized in March of 2018. Here's a breakdown of their bill comparison from years 2016 to 2018. We didn't want to include 2019 because there was still not enough time for that. They had a savings of over 37% in kilowatt per hour usage, and their average kilowatt per hour price is 18 cents. Savings from Ascensia from 2017 to 2018 was $6,154, which was applied to their general operating expenses. Now, they have incurred a cost for repair and maintenance of $2,700, but this was for maintenance and equipment check, and this was in part to Ascensia's agreement that they had with their contractor prior to the solar panel construction. So this was included in their contract. So in conclusion, and Armina touched upon this, agencies are required by HUD to provide 2 years of quarterly reporting after they complete their CIP project. So staff is recommending working directly with the municipal utility company to receive a 4-year breakdown. And the reasoning is 2 years pre-solar installation and then 2 years post-solar installation. So we can really properly assess what the savings is. And that pretty much concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, Committee Member Armenian can answer them.
I have questions. So first of all, thank you very much for this in-depth analysis. I appreciate the time that you've put into it. It's very, very helpful. The question I have to start off with is all of the participants are citing generic things in terms of where the savings has been used. So first detailed question is, are they providing any sort of backup to validate that statement as generic as it is?
Chair Garibian and committee members, yes, we do annual monitoring. We also ask when they are providing their quarterly reports to give us a breakdown of what programs and what supplies they bought. For example, if Home Admin has bought supplies for their sports, we do ask for backup on that. So when we ask to get the quarterlies, we get a complete backup of their utility bills, complete backup of what they how much they saved and what they bought with that, or where that program funding went. They do have these programs earmarked. And it is, they're able to show it where that, for example, if they have saved $7,000, where did they spend that $7,000?
So in Home Admin's case, they're pointing to something that has some very specific benefit to the end user, right?
Correct.
The supplies
Correct.
for the programs that they run. For the other two, however, they're talking about only applying it towards general operating expenses, in which case it's not as obvious where the benefit is to the end user. Obviously, the end user is the user of that facility.
Correct.
In terms of running it. But general operating expenses, in my opinion, is not what we were really seeking, wasn't the intent of where we were going with this. We were going toward things where the end user would kind of see a tangible benefit to them. Now, one might argue on the other side and say, well, the better we keep this facility is an end benefit to the user. But I was still, when I was pursuing this in my head, I wanted to see a more tangible end result. Because otherwise, we've spent $640,000 on these things. And, to what, when we do a renovation of the YWCA facility, it's a pretty substantial impact on the end user. And we haven't spent $640,000 yet, but we're getting close. When you spend $640,000 on solar panels on a roof, the end user doesn't see anything different, right, in terms of their daily life or how they use the facility, which is why we went to this saying, well, you have to reprogram those dollars somewhere where it's more tangible. So just stating general operating expenses, to me, at least personally, is inadequate.
Committee Member Armenian, if I may, we have contacted both of those agencies, Ascensia and Door of Hope, are homeless shelters, and they provide basically, Ascensia provides a 40-bed shelter. The savings from that, the solar panel, it goes back to their operating expenses of the shelter. But these funds are earmarked, meaning you could trace them to how much it was saved and what that saving has provided for the shelter. When we monitor, we do look for those items and the savings and what operating costs they have provided. We have asked specifically from Ascensia to give us those operating costs. Hopefully for the next time that we report, we will detail and drill it down to that level, but we trust and we are confident enough to say at this point that those operating costs, the savings, are going back to the shelter. Same thing with the Door of Hope. Door of Hope has an after-school program which CDBG Social Services does pay for. However, with the solar savings, it goes back into the 13-unit bed facility for women and children, and also their after-school program, which they provide tutoring, they provide case management, they provide food, and so many different things. But from our perspective, staff's perspective, and the monitoring perspective, we do ask them to earmark these funds.
So for
So we trace
example,
them.
so for example, when it's saying general operating expenses, what did it go toward?
They have utility, shelter is going to have utility expenses, is going to have supplies, it's going to have staff, it's going to have numerous accountings of that operation of that facility. Their accountant will earmark that funding towards the cost of the saving will be earmarked towards those operational costs. And we could ask, we do ask at the monitoring, and we do see that, but we could ask to provide it as an exhibit for your next reporting for you, and you could get a detail and see that,
Right.
and feel confident that those expenses are being earmarked.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
do
like to see the detail. So for example, if, we took $7,500 in savings and we bought 10 new beds in a homeless shelter, that's a tangible impact to the end user. So just saying general operating expenses is inadequate as a statement, in my opinion, for these reports. I'd like to see, I don't know if that's coming from staff or whether it's coming from the agency itself, but it would be good to see, what they earmarked it for, similar to what Home Enactment provided, which is they earmarked it, they gave it fairly more specific, and I assume there's backup
Yes.
to show the amounts. So that would be the only place where I would improve it. Otherwise, I appreciate it. My second and last question is, so when you're saying from a reporting perspective, are you saying that moving forward, once they provide the initial report, the recipient agency, they don't have to provide continuing earmarking reporting?
After completion of the construction, each agency is only required to report for 24 months. Annually, it will be 4 reports, 2 years of reports, so you'll have 8 quarterly reports. After those 8 quarterly reports, based on our CDBG agreement, capital improvement agreements, they're not mandated to report to us in any form or shape. After that, we're not going to be looking at any type of reporting or cost saving. However, if the committee wishes to continue to do that, we would need to work with our agencies to continuously ask them to do that at their own will, or because we have good working relationship with our committee agencies, to continue doing that and providing us the information. But as far as doing the quarterly reporting, it ends at the 24 months, and we've had that for years. But if
Is that our own decision, or is that a HUD decision?
It's the basic guidelines that after completion of the construction, you will continuously monitor them for 24 months. But again, if the committee decides that for solar panel projects, you want to do it for 4 years, then that will be something that we need to, moving forward, add those into our agreements. Currently, our agreements only call for 24 months.
Okay. I mean, just for the record, I would be of the opinion to have a longer reporting period if we're going to invest in that much money into solar panels for all the same reasons that I have stated before, which is if we're going to allocate that much money to these things, we got to see some sort of benefit. We have to see the validation of benefit to end users. Otherwise, I would be against any further solar panel projects, and I'd rather spend capital projects on facilities and things where there's a more tangible, direct link to benefit to end user. So that would be my opinion. I don't think we're going to take it up today, but that would be where I would want to take the discussion next. Thank you.
Chair Arabian, if there is a second from the committee to consider that, we can bring that back in a future report to consider extending that reporting period.
You mean just as an agenda item?
Just either as an agenda item or maybe part of the next evaluation period. We'll just add that as part of the motion, and then you guys can vote at that time.
Are you recommending I make a formal motion?
No, just interest if there's a second from somebody.
Why don't we wait for all of us to finish the comments on the subject, and then move on? Any
Quick question. You mentioned if we want to ask for more reporting time frame, that means the city staff has to redo our contracts, change the contracts for the future years. Of course, what's past is done, but the future years you have to redo the entire contract in a way to add on that language. And is that something that it's doable? Do you need to go back to the council to get approvals on that, or just the staff process, basically? Paperwork.
Chair Arabian, Commissioner Avedissian, we wouldn't be able to do it for 1920 contracts because those contracts are already in place. It would be hard to go back and negotiate. So if an agency said, no, I don't want to, I'm not saying they would, but if they were to say, no, I only want to do 2 years of reporting, we couldn't mandate that on them since the decision has already been made, which is why I'm saying we could consider it for 2021 awards. So we could consider that for future awards and build that language into the agreement. I'm not sure that it requires council action. We could look into that and maybe bring it back if we were to consider it for future contracts. But I would not recommend amending current contracts because the decision's already made and the funds have already been awarded. So we could consider that for future awards. We'll ask the agencies if they're willing to. We'd love to continue to report on them, but we just can't mandate it on them at this point.
I see. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Kazari, any comments?
I think the savings that they get from the solar panel should be spent at something that we are okay with it, not just they have operating expenses. If they're going to use that for operating, they already have operating expense. Should be used in something that maybe we should recommend where it can go the money.
Committee Member Ghazarian, and that would be something we could take a look at it, but that needs to be put into their agreements. We basically follow through the agreement and whatever guidelines or mandates we have on our agencies. Legally, we should have those in our agreements. We cannot mandate it otherwise because when we monitor, we go based off the agreements as well. So if that's something that the committee would like to see for the future projects, it's something that we could take a look and maybe look at what our agreements and extend it and work with our legal department to make sure that we have that inputted in there.
If I may, sorry, to add on that and add to his question, would it be possible for us to see that particular contract portion of it, maybe via email or something, that we can see that portion of the contract? And if the proposal, if per se we agree on adding on for the future years of reporting and also where the money's savings to be spent, kind of a language that we can probably talk about it in the next meeting or future meetings, and then we can probably move forward for the future. Or else, by the time I don't want you guys go through the process and getting everything done, bring it back to us, and we say, oh no, we don't want that. We changed our mind. We don't want to change it at all. So some sort of a semi-report or changes, or just an idea if we do how much work that it takes and whatever necessary changes that's going to affect the future. Of course, not anything else that is done before. It's not going to affect anything.
Chair Arabian, Commissioner Avedissian, staff will be happy to forward you guys a contract. We can choose one of the agencies that we currently have a contract with, or all of them that are solar panel. We could forward you those contracts for your review. We just can't really have a discussion through email because of the Brown Act, but we'll share the contract. If there is a second to committee member Armenian's request, we're happy to bring back a report that includes all of that in the discussion, and then the committee could make that decision at that time. So whether it's at the next meeting or at the meeting where we're deliberating and you're making decisions. And we'll also need to check with legal on committee member Ghazarian's request, because I'm not sure that the committee has oversight over how the agencies spend their savings. we could ask for that to be included in their proposal. So for future proposals, we could ask that the agencies identify how will you spend your savings, and they could recommend that this is what their proposal is. We propose that we're estimating $10,000 in savings, and this savings will be spent on A, B, and C. Then that way, when staff is going out, they can directly look for those savings. We could do it that way and then put it into the agreement as part of the agreement. Otherwise, we have no way of verifying or dictating how the funds are spent after the fact. So we could have that discussion as part of a future meeting. We can bring back a report, again, once we talk to legal, and then also propose a change in the proposal process, which might give you more information on that. So we're happy to bring back a report for that. But in the meantime, we'll share the agreement and highlight the sections within the agreement that dictate how long the tracking method would be.
That would be great. Appreciate it. I think that would solve a lot of questions. Thank you.
Did you have anything to say?
So obviously, solar, it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's extremely important as a whole for our city and for state and everybody else. And we would encourage people to go solar, cost efficiency and clean energy, and obviously Glendale specifically, it's cheaper for us too, and less of carbon that we get to use so far. What happens until Grayson, we don't know. It's still down the road. So it's obviously it's a great cause. And yes, the contract obviously says that they have to use it, but earlier when we were discussing the different agencies, because of the type of each agency, they do something different. They're not the same. In home equipment case, our case, yeah, they can buy balls, basketballs or something. It's easy. But Door of Hope, they have the beds, so they don't really have materials to buy, except I bought extra pillow, but normally goes towards operation, because what they do is service versus supplies. And I'm sure there are other companies as such. I'm sure they can buy a toy for the children, but very hard to really write it down. And Mr. Guzarian's idea, same thing that she just mentioned, that it's very hard to say, give me a list of every detailed thing you're going to use. It's hard to control. But I agree that we should have something. Maybe instead of part of the contract, we can have a subsidiary of, desirable requirement versus a full-on contract. Something that we can say, because again, very hard for certain agencies to give us what we want. We don't want to give them contracts of such that they can't provide, and they might stay away from, hey, I don't want to do this because I can't really tell you what did I do with the money, except I had an extra tutor or I had an extra teacher or someone, an extra nurse or whatever it is. But that goes towards operation savings, obviously. So I don't want to go too hard on the subject of the contract, or if it's possible, something as desirable, but yet we don't want to waste anyone's time to move forward. Obviously, legal is number one. We have to know what legal boundaries we have, how much we can ask for anything to add to the contracts without. Or if they're repeat clients, agencies, we can say, hey, you asked for solar, now you're asking for ABC, whatever. Let me see your last recent report after the 2 years. If, let's say, 4 years from now, they come and say, well, let me see the most current year report. Because you're asking for it, then you have to give me the most current one. I'm just thinking out loud or stuff like that, because if somebody really applied for a solar, not necessarily they apply for anything else. Again, not necessarily these are ongoing, regular agencies that we use on a yearly basis. Or we can make it easy. We can say, hey, give me a report every other year. We can skip 1 year and then give me 1 more year instead of quarterly after the 2 year. So we can make it easier, yet at the same time keep us informed, because as times pass and days pass, everything else changes. Their system changes, their style of work changes. So it's very hard to write an agreement and contract from day one and hold them against it for years to come, because a lot change as we move forward through the agency's operations, or cost of livings, or so many other things change. So that it's, I think, again, I don't want to I agree with all to have something, but yet after we're cleared legally, then we have to make it something that is balanced and is not too harsh, and it's something we can use, and we don't want to have anyone run away from applying because of the toughness of contracts as well. So we want to try to make their job easier and make their life easier than harder. So that's pretty much but if you guys want to put a motion, what would be the motion, be suggestion for what?
Chair Caribbean, members of the committee, we don't need a motion.
Okay.
Just to clarify, anytime the committee wants to give direction to staff to bring to put something on a future meeting's agenda, we need either the chair to give us that direction, and that would suffice, or at least 2 members of the committee to agree that they want some sort of report to come back and to be added to the agenda. So I think that's what Deputy Director Alexanian was alluding to, that we need at least one other person to say, yes, I want to report back, as Armenian was.
As Armenian mentioned, he wants to see, or all of us wanted to see, where does this money go, bottom line. We want to know where does it go. Obviously, these are agencies that we know is not going to waste, is going for the program itself. Now, where in the program, that's where the detail they want to know. But again, as I'm going to recommend, it's for now, let's have the staff to come up with something that they can't just say, hey, give me detail of where it goes. That's going to be a problem, I think, going down the road with the agencies to spell out exactly in details. Do we want to put a time limit to report us every 2 years with where the money went after the 2 years? So we have 2 things. One, the term after the 2 years. That's one issue. And also where and when the money. So it's 2 different issues, right? So we want to make sure both issues are answered, because it's raised by the members. And so I think I would recommend for the staff to come back with a suggestion of how to implement that into our packages or programs, that it would answer both questions, and it could be separately, I think, not necessarily, because one could apply to one agency, not necessarily the other will apply to another agency, meaning time could always be there for all agencies, but not necessarily where you spend the money will apply to all agencies. So maybe the recommendation or something like that. I think we should leave the floor open for the staff to come up with what options we have to implement into the contract.
Chair Garibian, members of the committee, I would like to add a few comments to this report. Excellent questions. When we were putting the report together, it was really a 4-person show in the case of this report. These are small agencies, they're small nonprofits. They usually have a very high turnover rate with staffing. We do receive the requests that we ask them for the bills and whatnot. And to be truthful with you, they were bits and pieces of information that we actually had to kind of dissect and put together. And then we are lucky enough, obviously, to be the City of Glendale, and GWP is one of our departments. And we reached out to our utility benefits coordinator, who actually was able to break this down for us. It's very difficult for these agencies to even break down their own numbers. I know for a fact we were having trouble reading their own meters, because they have their meters from the past, they have new meters, and then they have the meter with the energized system. So here you are trying to figure out these numbers, and then the utility benefits coordinator just puts it all together for you, and you're like, this is great. But even the agency wasn't able to do that for us. So I don't want to be, it's not that we're harsh on them, it's just, I feel like if we're asking them for this, it's really asking a lot of the agency for what they're being funded, and it might deter them from applying in the future. Just something to be mindful of.
That was my concern.
May I make a comment?
So these,
This is actually directly to my point, speaks directly to my point. We've spent $640,000 on solar panels. While in principle it's a great thing, that's not the core mission of CDBG. The core mission of CDBG is to help the end users through capital programs and social service programs. This type of capital program doesn't have a direct tangible benefit back to the end user, which is what I'm trying to pursue here. I would have much rather seen a project where a facility like the YWCA project, where a facility is being renovated, there's a direct tangible benefit to the end user. We ended up going down this because one saw the other one got money, and so they came up with these projects instead of other projects. I'll give you an example. At one point, I remember Door of Hope came to us with a $15,000 program to replace a hot water heater. Then they withdrew that, and they went for something bigger, like the solar panel. Well, I'd want to see the solar panel going back, the savings going toward, let's say, a capital savings program that's going to pay for a water heater. That's a tangible benefit back to hot water, is a tangible benefit back to the end user. Each of these facilities should be doing, analyses of their, capital expenditures in the future, just like a homeowners association would do a reserve study about a facility. What are all the different major cost items within that facility that will have a lifespan to them, right? A shelf life to them. I'm not sure if any of them do that sort of due diligence on their own facility so that they can predict, hey, in 5 years, we're going to have to replace that water heater and it's going to cost us $15,000. A solar program could go towards saying savings over years. In 3 years, the savings, if we put it away toward the water heater, we know it's going to pay for that tangible benefit. In my opinion, we should have never gotten into the solar business because it's not the core competency, nor is it the core mission as a capital project. That type of capital project is not in my opinion, part of the core mission of CDBG. We've spent a lot of money on a lot of facilities in different ways that have been very tangible impact to the end users of those facilities. Solar panel is a indirect benefit potentially if the savings is used in a way that ends up downstream touching someone, which is what I originally tried to pursue this with. So that's the kind of discussion I'd like to have. Maybe it's more fundamental than just hey, how do we adjust the reporting requirement? Maybe it's a more philosophical discussion as well as to whether or not, let's see if in the next round there is anyone coming to us with solar projects. But, I'd certainly be one to apply greater scrutiny moving forward because I recognize the difficulties in staff having to track things that are very technical in nature, and ultimately, when you really get down to the end of the line, it's hard to put your finger on, what it is we're trying to achieve with this. To just say, hey, all solar energy is good, and those are all very pie in the sky kind of things. At the end of the day, that's not our core mission, in my opinion. Our core mission is on the ground, and we have to figure out projects that are going to have real benefit on the ground to the end user. So I'd like to see that kind of discussion incorporated as well.
Chair Caribbean, members of the committee, I would recommend that this discussion be closed until the staff brings back a report, if that is the committee's wish. Basically, this item was essentially regarding the report that was submitted of the savings that have already occurred. So I know it's a little bit of a slippery slope because it is still in the topic of solar panels, but we do want to make sure that we are sticking to the Brown Act and giving the members of the public the opportunity to speak on any other topic that, goes away from what was reported. So I apologize, but sometimes I'm tasked with keeping us on track with that and respecting the Brown Act. So if it is the will of the committee, staff can bring back a report in the future. But other than that, we should probably end the discussion on any future, solar panel requirements for projects.
I'm okay with that, but I just want to make sure what kind of report, because the last comment we had was, in general, solar panel is part of our, that was a little bit further than our original opened up the subject to go for. But now it's solar panel. It's something that we should consider if it's not a tangible item or not. That's the issue that he wanted to see the report on, I assume. Because if the water heater is not in place, then we shouldn't do solar panel.
Chair Garibian, I think from my understanding of what Commissioner Armenian said and seemed like the committee majority seems to agree to was just for staff to bring back a report where you could have an open discussion on the requirements of solar panel reporting for the future and where the savings would be spent. And then as part of that report, you know, if, again, depending on whether we bring it before the next CIP proposals come in or while we have the CIP proposals being evaluated, you as a committee could make that decision and deliberate whether those types of projects should be funded in this specific year or in any future year. I'm not sure that you want to limit the type of projects that apply for CIP funding, so I think we would just leave it open for CIP funding and then maybe have that discussion as part of the evaluation process for 2021. And if the decision, and again, we'd have to get legal clarification whether we could dictate whether future CIP projects should or shouldn't include solar panels. So I think the report would just be a more general report on reporting requirements and the where the savings could be spent. And as we evaluate this topic, we'll think about other things to include as part of that larger discussion for the report. And then you as a committee could discuss that at that time and come to a majority decision. If you're all comfortable with that, we could leave it at that and we'll bring back a report either at the next meeting or as part of the evaluations. Does that sound okay, Chair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Thank you. What's next?
Next is item 5, committee staff comments.
Who wants to go first?
I'll just say one thing in closing. Unfortunately, 2 agencies that actually got funding for social service out of the 10,000 left before we could say something. But I just wanted to, for the record, say, you know, these decisions on funding are never easy. Philosophically, you know, I think we should always strive for, you know, more money for less. We've had that discussion in the past on the larger picture, but it also applies, in my opinion, on the when we deal with amounts like $10,000. All the agencies are deserving. Some are newer. We'll get a track record from them by the time we're here next time around, giving, you know, allocating money. Some have been with us a long time, have a lengthier track record, proving their delivery of services that are important to the community. But I have no doubt that all of them are legitimate and worthy of funding. We have to make the tough decisions sometimes. So my apologies to fellow committee member for not being able to support all your wishes, but I wanted to kind of make the point that it wasn't a commentary on any single organization. Or at some point, you have to come to a decision. We're not always going to agree 100% on all of them, so appreciate the consideration.
I just want to again thank you for the staff, first of all, to being on top of everything in bringing us up to date on a daily basis or monthly basis as needed, warranted, and bringing us back with even that small amount and trying to support one or the other organization. It hurts me, it really bothers me every time I have to discuss the numbers and seeing so much of need and so little of monies that we have to spend. But however, like the committee member said, it's always a tough thing, and it's hard to discuss or decide on anyone and breaking somebody's some organization's needs or dividing it to a certain level. Anyhow, I thank you very much and looking forward for the next meeting.
I was going to go with 4 ways, because if somebody cannot use the amount because we don't have a lot of money, shouldn't some other agencies not to get anything because this one company needs minimum of like $5,000? I thought it was fair to go different to more agencies than one person if we can. That's the only way That's why I want to go 4 ways. Thank you for everything.
Yes, thank you first to the staff for doing a great job, as you said, for even small $10,000, which is huge for the agencies. You guys do put the time in to go through this, obviously, and so thank you for you guys. And yes, it is hard, as you guys see, every time we want to make a decision, 5 ways, 10 ways, small number, big number, you don't know which one to get, so it's pretty hard to go. But nevertheless, it's just because it's hard doesn't mean it shouldn't be done, so somebody got to do it. Thanks to my colleagues here. I want to also thank the fire department for yesterday's fire we had. Our fire department, they did a great job. I was supposed to actually meet our fire chief, Silvia Lanzos, but he was absent because of the fire agency. So thank you so much. They got the handle pretty fast, and they did a great job on that one, so I appreciate it. So thank you, and we're ready to adjourn.
Actually, if I may, I think staff has a couple of announcements.
We have a couple of announcements to make to the public and to the committee. We have our second annual CDBG open house on September 19th at 3 p.m. at the Adult Recreation Center. This is the second annual one. We're really encouraging nonprofits to come out who haven't done so yet and learn the fundamentals of the CDBG program.
How are we getting this news out to new organizations potentially?
We have sent out the mailer to, as you recall, we had the Mayor's Nonprofit Summit. We went off of that list as well as our own list, and we sent it out in a blast email to everyone. So we're waiting, and we're getting some responses back, so we're anticipating hopefully a good turnout on the 19th.
Is it more than last year's numbers?
It is on the website, it is on social media, it's
Leisure
on...
Guide newsletter.
Mhm. So it's out there, absolutely. And then the next event I'd like to share with the committee and the public is our October 3rd. That's okay.
Same one, sorry.
It's our October 3rd community meeting on how to improve your neighborhood. This is a meeting that's going to be held on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. This is going to decide the next 5 years of our consolidated plan, where our consultant will also be attending. We really encourage the community to come out and give their input so we can create the next 5-year plan. So again, we encourage families to come out, bring their kids. We always have child care services as well for families. And that's at 7 p.m. at Pacific Park Community Center on Thursday, October 3rd. Thank you.
Very good.
Quick question is, because you mentioned it, Mayor's Nonprofit Summit, is that going to be something that city staff is intending to repeat? Or is that a one-time thing?
Committee member Armenian, that is something that the Management Services Department is looking at, and it looks like it'll be most likely held in early spring, and it's something that they're working on, so Mayor Najarian will continue the tradition of the Mayor's Nonprofit Summit.
Thank you.
Early spring.
Early spring. I don't want to say March, but possibly March.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from me.
All right, we're
We're ready to adjourn when you
okay,
want.
and we're adjourned at 4:49.